Welcome back to the Wild Ones Pro Show, coming to you after stage 20 of the men's and stage 1 of the women's Tour de France.
That's Jimmy. I'm producer Emily, and we're also back with pro cycling journalist Katie. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
What's happening?
Thanks to Garmin and Van Rysel for supporting the show. We're going to unpack the men's race first because that's the story we've been telling up to this point. Then we'll get into the Femmes. So, Katie, would you like to take us away with the highlights?
Sure. After 3 brutal weeks on the road and with the GC all over bar the shouting, it was all to play for on stage 20, with an opportunity for anyone who had the legs to go for it. In cool and wet conditions, the breakaway took a long time to sort itself out with a cagey vibe in the bunch. There were plenty suffering too. Arnaud Delis was struggling and dropped even before the first climb of the day. The attempts to get away continued, and a strong group of 13 riders finally got away after over 60 kilometres of racing. Jayco's Mauro Schmidt took on the role of controlling the break, as the group contained Jordan Giguet of Total Energies, who was 11th on GC and stood to sneak into the top 10 ahead of Ben O'Connor, Schmidt's teammate. So he kept the gap at 2 minutes 30 despite having crashed earlier on.
Yeah, the roads were pretty much like an ice rink today. We saw some rain come down early, and then even when it cleared, you could just see the slickness, the greasiness of the road. And he slid out about 20 metres or so. And I was actually amazed no one else came down with him.
Yeah, it was amazing, actually. I don't know how everyone behind him managed to avoid it. There was some really strong bike handling skills on display today. And it was amazing that Schmidt himself was able to pull such a long turn on the front. Giguet was the thorn in the side of the breakaway because of this. And there were some riders almost bullying him to drop back, as his presence there prevented them from building a decent enough gap. But he left them all behind in the end on the long Category 2 climb in the middle of the stage, heading off solo. He was followed shortly after by Harry Sweeney of EF, who actually got angry with Giguet for not pulling, so launched his own solo move with 54 kilometres still left to race. But there were 2 strong chase groups bearing down behind, with the peloton way back over 5 minutes behind them, and with the rain and the full gas efforts, it had the feel of a Belgian one-day classic. Sweeney was finally caught as the 2 chase groups came back together on the final categorised climb of the day, and as they moved towards the summit, Movistar's Ivan Romeo attacked, followed by local rider Romain Gregoire of Groupama FDG, but both of them overcooked a slippery corner and came down hard.
Again, a result of the conditions today. Romeo slid hard into a curb there, and we saw a lot of road rash. Thankfully, the French police just happened to be parked up at the side of the road, maybe just waiting for the race to, just out for a nice day of spectating. Perhaps it was seen as a potentially hazardous area, but anyway, they were on hand to sort of sweep up the pieces of that.
Yeah, thank goodness they were there. Those who were able to stay upright moved clear to form a lead trio: 2 sprinters, Kaden Groves and Jake Stewart, and a climber, Frank Vandenbroek. Just 30 seconds back, an ominously powerful trio of Matteo Jorgensen, Tim Wellens and Matteo Trentin were riding well together. They picked up Sweeney and a very sore-looking Gregoire. Back at the front, Groves kicked with 16 kilometres to go, and Stewart and Vandenbroek just looked at each other.
It seemed like idiocy, didn't it? It was like they just let him just ride away. They did absolutely nothing. They were just like almost looking as if there was someone else behind them that was going to just pick up the pieces.
Maybe they wish there was. They've done 20 stages now. Maybe they just didn't have anything left in the tank.
But you still have to try at least.
Maybe they were looking back to the moto, see if it would give them a little bit of a turn on the front.
Or a Martinez style sticky bottle.
Yeah, where's all this help we've heard about?
Yeah.
It did not come. Groves was away and gone, and despite the best efforts of Vandenbroek, who launched a late counter move behind, Kaden Groves was unstoppable. He rode to the team's 3rd stage win of the Tour, the first 2 stages and this one. Back in the GC group, Schmidt and O'Connor, who had been controlling the pace all day, ran out of energy with 6 kilometres still to go, so Giguet was master of his own fate as UAE let the gap slide out. He ended up taking that 10th place on GC. What should have been an easy roll into the finish for the peloton ended in a bit of chaos when a touch of wheels brought down an Arkea rider, we think Clement Venturini, whose foot then got caught in the wheel of Cofidis Damien Touze and brought him down too.
Another doomed end for Cofidis.
Yeah, they're just making a play for the doomed jersey.
They are indeed. Kaden Groves was in tears in his post-stage interview, just overwhelmed, and it obviously means so much to him, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was an amazing victory. He's such a versatile rider. He's a sprinter and can win in a bunch sprint, but also he can really handle days like this. And the point was being made that he wins a lot in the rain, and when the rain comes, he is in his element, and he absolutely proved that today. And we've seen him win hilly classics in Belgium before. He isn't just a pure flat sprinter like Milan or Malir. He can really handle some climbs, and he proved that today by actually going on the offensive on some of the climbs. So spectacular performance from him, and a great end to the race for Alpecin.
It's kind of like the Michael Schumacher of bike racing. And anyone which doesn't understand that, Schumacher was just unbelievably good in the wet.
It's interesting that you say he's so good in the wet, because I think he may be one of the best, if not the best bike handler at the Tour, or maybe just the luckiest. So if you think back to stage one, we saw him narrowly avoid a crash by doing an endo around Maren van der Berg and Ben O'Connor. He then went on to lead Philipsen out to victory. Today, roads were like an ice rink. We saw a handful of other riders lose control of their bikes at various points. But again, he managed to navigate up a very greasy spot on a climb around a corner. Cat-like reflexes. He had a little wobble. He caught back on, and then he's gone on to win the stage.
Yeah. Interestingly, both him and Michael Schumacher talk about their youth and what they were doing in their youth as the credit for their skill in the wet. So for Michael Schumacher, he was a carter and just carted all the time, and he credits that as what gave him the skill. For Groves, he used to do a lot of motocross and talks about how his motocross was, what he used to love doing, and that's where all of his bike handling skills came from. Apparently, he says he got an injury, was riding bikes as part of his rehab, and then that's how he got into riding bikes.
Interesting.
I also find that I think Alpecin probably have a bit of, I don't know if they've got a bit of friendly internal rivalry going on, but because they have so many cyclocrosses on the team, we've seen Mathieu van der Poel handle a bike. Mm-hmm. He's the master of cobbles. He can off-road like nobody's business. And I think they've got so many versatile, skillful riders on that team. I think it's probably a bit of a badge of honour among them to just show their skills. And we saw it today. And as you said earlier in the race, Emily, and it's just really cool actually to see riders who can really manage the difficulties that the Tour de France throws up with such aplomb.
Totally. And Alpecin has got to be so incredibly happy with their achievements this year in the face of adversity. Look, they're not the underdogs. They came with a fantastic squad, but Philipsen went out, really nasty injury. Van der Poel is now out because of pneumonia, and the team have managed to bounce back and still make some great achievements. And I think that's awesome.
They are very resilient, and also they benefit hugely from knowing what they're good at, from playing to their strengths and just staying in their lane and knowing that this is us, this is what we're here for. And they've come away with 3-stage wins, which is just an awesome achievement.
I'm quite surprised to say it and think it, but I kind of like them. I always hated them. They always had this something dislikable about them, but they're clever. They're an intelligent team, and it's just nice to see that play out, isn't it?
And Groves now has a stage victory in every Grand Tour, is that right?
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he's won in the Giro. He's a master at the Vuelta. That's an interesting point to add about him, is that about the Vuelta of España, really, it's the Grand Tour with the least sprinting in it. And it's the hardest for sprinters because it's up and down all the time. Like an uncategorized climb at the Vuelta is, I'd struggle to walk up it probably. And Groves goes there very cleverly again. As you say, it's a clever team, knowing that pure sprinters just aren't going to bother to go there. So he can go and actually mop up in bunch sprints as well as, riding the medium hilly stages. So he knows his strengths as well as the team.
So where are we at now with the jerseys? So
we pretty much wrapped everything up today. GC and white jersey competitions, barring incident, accident or something, very unexpected happening tomorrow in Paris, we're sorted. Pogacar's won the race. Lipowitz will win white. And today we got full confirmation based on the amount of points left available that green will go to Jonathan Milan and the King of the Mountains will be won also by Tadej Pogacar. So yes, we're all ticked off, wrapped up, and they can take those jerseys home and hang them up on the wall.
Nice. Well, speaking of jerseys, we also need to crown the overall winners of our alternative jersey competition. The real competition, I would say. We will crown the final winners tomorrow. However, since the People's Champion is based on a vote, we will put out a poll, which will close after tomorrow's stage, and we'll announce the winner. So the nominees for the overall prize are previous winner, Ben Healy. It's only right that he returns. He's had a great tour. He's been a stage winner. He's held the yellow. He's gave it absolutely everything. We've also put in there Jonas Abrahamsen. He went from a broken collarbone to a Tour de France stage win in about 4 weeks. And once again, we've seen him in a lot of breakaways. Very likeable guy. Another likeable guy, Geraint Thomas. This is his farewell tour. He is a legend, and I think this would be a really fitting tribute for him.
He's also Welsh, and I'm Welsh, and I'm putting him in.
Fine. And finally, another previous winner, the Shimano Stig, because I think it's only right that previous winners are there. Previous winner, Mathieu van der Poel, is not eligible, as the rules that I made up state that if you leave the tour, you ain't eligible. So we have some previous winners in there, and we have some people who we think are people's champions. So please let us know, and we'll reveal the winners tomorrow.
Meanwhile, Amy Cycling Adventures has done it. She has finished the final stage in Paris yesterday.
Yay.
We'll do Jimmy's Data Corner because these numbers put the men's Tour de France to absolute shame. She rode 474 miles, which is 6,556 kilometers, with just over 245,600 feet of elevation, which is 74,800 meters, and a total saddle time of 282 hours.
That's wild.
She's raised over £60,000 for mental health charity Shout and The Mix, and we'll leave a link to a donation page in the description. Again, thanks to everyone who has supported her, will donate, can donate. In my opinion, this is probably, I'm very, very comfortable that this is the best ride of the year. If I had to vote in like a weird award show for performance of the year, I would give it to Amy.
Mm-hmm. Another People's Champion. Maybe we should give her a special People's Champion jersey.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so it's the final countdown. It's the final stage tomorrow. Katie, what can we expect?
We've made it to Paris, and the riders have also done very well to get through the 3 weeks too. It's the Champs-Élysées stage, but not as we know it. 132.3 kilometres. The stage features a couple of early categorised climbs, but they're unlikely to mean much, as the first half of the stage will likely be given over to the usual ceremonial proceedings with photo opportunities, champagne, and that sort of thing. It seems likely that will still happen as normal. The competitive portion of the stage will begin with the first passage of the Champs-Élysées, and it's an intermediate sprint point. From there, 3 circuits of a new course will take the riders up the Côte de la Butte Montmartre, the cobbled climb that featured in last summer's Olympic Games road race. It's a Cat 4 climb, 1.1 kilometres, with an average gradient of 5.9%, and it will bring the punchy riders out to play and probably isolate the pure sprinters, meaning that it's highly likely we will not see the traditional bunch sprint finish on the Champs at the end of the stage.
Which, as we've heard, the sprinters are very sad about. Mathieu van der Poel, we thought was a perfect contender for the stage, but obviously not here.
Yeah, and Remco, who won last year's Olympics road race, not here either, although it maybe wouldn't have been one for him. We did wonder if Pogačar might go for it.
He's definitely going to want the photo op, though.
Nah.
Yellow jersey over the finish line on the final stage in Paris practically never happens.
Yeah, I think there's way more to lose than there is to gain here for Pogačar. What do I know? I haven't thought it from the start that he will go for it, because I think the smart decision when it's cobbly, bunchy, is just to
be off the front.
No, I say get way back and just let it almost just let a breakaway go of punchy riders and protect your yellow, protect your sanity. He's ready to go home. He's already said. But maybe you'll want to get there the fastest and then he'll get home quicker. I don't know.
He also will have to defend if needs be.
Maybe, if we see that happen. It just depends whether the gentleman's rules.
I kind of like the idea that we don't know how it's going to unfold. And we're not seeing the same Pogačar that we've seen in the past. However, that doesn't mean the little itchy... Here, the normal Pogačar is not just going to itch his brain and go, come on, let's just do it. And actually, I can see what Jimmy's saying, and he might just attack at the intermediate sprint and just lead the whole way to the finish.
He's had a couple of easy days, and I think that's potentially intentional. It's a shame that the green jersey's wrapped up, because I think we potentially would have seen the intermediate sprint actually being the sprinters world champs, and then them essentially handing over to the more ruler-y riders to then wrap up the stage. But either way, it's a new environment. We don't know what's going to happen, and for me, that's kind of cool.
The Wild Ones Pro Show is supported by Garmin.
And we are in some really good company, because Garmin also supports some of the very best riders in the Tour de France and the Tour de France Femmes.
Yeah, they work with teams like Visma Lease Bike, Soudal Quickstep, SD Works Pro Time, FDJ Suez, and many more.
And because Garmin provides these teams with trainers, head units and wearables, they've got access to mountains of incredible data.
And they're going to share some of that data with us throughout the coming stages. So we'll get a really interesting insight into the physical demands of the most prestigious bike races in the world.
So please stay tuned for that. And once again, thanks to Garmin for supporting the show.
How would you like to win a Van Rysel RCR-F 105 Di2 worth £5,000?
I would love to. I've ridden that bike. It is proper good.
Well, sorry, Jimmy, you can't. But one of our UK listeners will, thanks to our sponsor, Van Rysel.
That's class. The RCR-F is literally a Tour de France race bike.
Yeah, the official bikes of Decathlon, AG2R, Le Mondial.
The 105 version has the same grade of carbon that the pros ride.
So to enter the draw to win this bike, click the link in our description. You must be a UK resident, age 18 or over, and T's and C's apply. One winner will be chosen by Van Rysel and contacted by them a week after the draw closes at midnight on August 4th. I sound like one of those radio adverts, don't I?
No, it wasn't fast enough. So good luck, and thanks to Van Rysel for supporting the Wild Ones Pro Show.
Well, I think it's about time we moved on to the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift. So, Katie, could you round up what happened today?
Yep, so we had stage 1 today in Brittany, and it wasn't a great start. We had a crash in the neutralised zone. Several riders were caught up. There was a coming together around a bit of road furniture. So the official start was held up as a result, but they finally got away. And the first rider to attack this year's race was Laura Tomasi of Laboral. She was chased by Volker Vessel's Maud Rainbeek, and the two formed a breakaway duo. But they were kept on a very tight leash by the bunch on such a short stage. They never had more than 30 seconds. With the gap coming down, Rainbeek attacked with 56 kilometres remaining to take the first QOM point of the day, and she was swept up by the bunch with 46k to go. The pace picked up with around 35k remaining on the stage, and the first casualty of the pace was one of the pre-race favourites, Marlon Reusser. She had revealed just prior to the race that she was suffering with stomach issues. Movistar's woes continued as Liana Lippert came down in a crash, heading over a bridge, which also brought down Liverpool Jayco's Mavi Garcia.
It really has been a crashy day today, all in all, hasn't it? Next up, we saw the intermediate sprint.
Yeah, and it was placed at the top of a short but tough climb, which we saw 3 times on today's route. This didn't deter European champion Lorena Wiebes, who cruised over the line to take the full points. Franziska Koch of Picnic Post-NL tried to launch a move from there, but Wiebes latched onto her wheel and the bunch closed them down. Just after this, we saw Reusser way off the back of the bunch and clearly struggling. She was later confirmed as having abandoned, which is a real heartbreaker for her, after narrowly missing out on the GC win at the Giro d'Italia 2 weeks ago. Onto the Cat 3 climb, and the tension was high in the bunch, and with no breakaway, the top riders assembled to fight it out for the first QOM jersey of the race, and it was FDJ Suez's Elise Chabet who claimed that one. Heading into a final lap around Plumelec, a number of attacks were launched. First UAE Team ADQ's Dominika Vlodicic, followed by Franziska Koch again, and Brodie Chapman led a counter move, but all of them were brought back. Visma Lease Bike were leading the charge heading into the final 5 kilometres, and they led all the way to the finish, really, launching a full lead out for Marianne Vos with all the race favourites following on behind. Heading on to the final climb to the finish line, it was Pauline Ferrand-Prévot for Visma, who appeared to be riding as the final lead out for Vos. She powered away on the climb and had a sizable gap heading into the final right-hand turn, kicking up to the line, and behind her, Vos and Kim Lecourt punched their way up to fight it out for the win, as Ferrand-Prévot faded.
Well, that was a bit of a buzz, wasn't it? You don't often see a GC contender leading out in a sprint from stage 1, do you?
It's not normal, or it's not usual anyway, but Visma Lease Bike play things a little bit differently, and we saw this in the classics a few times with Vos and Ferrand-Prévot working as foils for each other. They work really well together despite their different qualities. I never actually said at any point there, Vos won the sprint. So she actually took stage 1 of the Tour de France Femmes with Kim Lecourt in second and Pauline in third.
I was convinced that I didn't realise it was a lead out. I thought Pauline was going for it because she got such a gap. But then, I don't know, I assumed that she'd kind of blown up a little bit, but was it all planned? Was it a lead out from the start? She said in her post-race interview that it was. The plan was always to go for Vos. So
yeah, and it's a Vos kind of stage. She'll be going for the points jersey, and as you say, Pauline's a GC rider, so it's not really for her in that sense. But at the same time, it did look like she could have ridden away with it. But when she looked over her shoulder and saw Vos coming through, she just sort of grinned, and it was like, well, yeah, you've got this. It was the plan to go for you, and Vos smashed it at the finish line as she has done so many times before.
So Vos will wear yellow tomorrow. She also won the green jersey too, but she can't wear them both, so Kim Lecourt will wear that one. Demi Vollering lost some time today.
Yeah, she did. She was caught up on the climb, and it looked as though there was something going on between her and maybe Lorena Wiebes got in her way a little bit, and she was held back. She couldn't come through, and she had to storm through sort of on her own really up the climb. She lost 7 seconds to Pauline Ferrand-Prévot and 3 to Cassia Niewiadoma-Finney today. So not the best of starts for Demi, but she won't be too bothered, I don't think.
Okay, so there has been a massive fluff up of the day. And this one comes courtesy of the official Tour de France Femmes of Zwift website, which was, to put it mildly, a hot mess. Viewers Agatha and Peter both emailed to point this one out. The site put together a very handy roundup of last year's winners, only they seem to have taken those results from somewhere else in the multiverse, because they definitely weren't from a reality that we were aware of. The names are all correct, but the pictures next to those names are just all over the place. So they had Demi Vollering and last year's winner Cassia Niewiadoma-Finney's pictures switched around. Green jersey winner Marianne Vos has become Elisa Longoborghini. They put Kopecki's photo next to polka dot jersey winner Gakira, and Tontje Bakehouse, who was not even at the race, has usurped Puck Pieterse in the white jersey. But hey, at least they got Little Trek right.
What a mess that is.
No, it's not a great look, is it? And also, some of our US viewers wrote to us and said that they were without live audio for the first 30 minutes of the race as well. So a few hiccups to start with, to put it mildly. But I would like to say, actually, on the plus side, that the coverage does look awesome. You know, we're seeing multi-camera angles, helicopter views, which doesn't sound like a lot. It's on par with the men's race, and that is what should be expected. However, I definitely have watched women's races that haven't been like that as well. So it's just nice to be able to view it in the same way that we would view the men's.
To put it into context, we didn't have full coverage of any of the women's classics. Having start to finish coverage for a women's race is still highly unusual in 2025, which shouldn't be the case at all. I'm really pleased that we've got it for the Tour de France Femmes, but we'd love to see it for all of the big races and, well, all of the races on a par with the men's. So it's a start. Yeah,
it is a start. And just ASO, just work on your website a little bit, please. Now, the Tour is a very prestigious race. However, it's a fairly new addition to the women's calendar. It only launched in 2022. There may be some people unfamiliar with the race, and Francis has done a really helpful explainer if you want to go and watch that on our YouTube channel. But we also thought it was fitting to talk through some of the race favourites and the ones to watch this year. So, Katie, do you want to talk us through the GC favourites first of all?
Yeah, so the women's GC competition is an antidote to the men's in a way, in that with Pogačar and his dominance and winning by 4 minutes plus, it's a different story in the women's generally. Last year, we saw victory in the GC competition taken by just 4 seconds. And it was a dramatic last gasp victory on Alpe d'Huez. Cassia Niewiadoma, now Niewiadoma-Finney, came back through to beat Demi Vollering, who had been in the lead at that point. And it was just so close. We didn't even know until the time gaps and bonuses were calculated that she'd won. It was really something to see. So we're expecting a close race again this year, hopefully. So that'll be really good. The top 2 riders from last year do return. So we've got Cassia Nieuwiadoma-Finney defending her title, and Demi Vollering back with her new team, FDJ Suez, after a bit of controversy last year with her team, SD Works. I don't know if you watched the race last year, but there was a moment where we saw her crash on stage 6 and her teammates didn't drop back to help her. And we heard someone say, I saw a yellow thing on the ground, and it was her teammate who was Demi Vollering. So I think that Vollering's in a much happier place at FDJ Suez, and she's been smashing it this season already. She won the Vuelta.
Something that's very different from what we saw in the men's race, and I know that Demi was deep in the comments on Instagram kind of voicing her frustration at how the men had waited for Pogacar, and perhaps her words, the women's peloton's not quite as kind. So there is definitely a difference in racing styles there, isn't there?
Yeah, for sure. There's certainly a frisson of tension, I think. And yeah, we've seen it multiple occasions of this kind of people being left behind and not being waited for and that kind of thing. So look out for that sort of thing as the race gets deeper in. She's looking for revenge this year for sure.
I actually wanted to mention something else on that, because we talked about this at the time, and we talked about why it might be the case that the women's peloton don't wait. And we thought maybe it's because, number one, the men's peloton, it just has had a much longer time to establish these rules. And if you think of any kind of social situation where there are social rules in place, you would be seen as weird or an outcast if you went against those. Whereas it almost feels like the women's peloton has never established that. So it would need to be established. Otherwise, why would you go for it? I also just think there's, up until very recently and still now, there's less opportunity. You know, there's less spotlight, there's less prize money. And not that it's more dog eat dog, but in a way, kind of, like everyone's so worried about not taking their chances. So I think that it's not just that women are horrible and the men are lovely. There are differences there, aren't there?
Yeah, it's a good point you make. There are less opportunities. There is less coverage. There's less chances to be on camera, to grab those precious chances to win. And so why shouldn't they just go for it? Like, it does seem as if it's sort of fair enough in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And also the peloton is smaller, so there's less control.
Yep.
So you don't have that kind of sense of this team's riding at the front, stopping anybody from jumping out to the break. It's more flowing and less strict, really, just because of the fact there's less of them. So you do get more unexpected race situations arising, and it's exciting for that reason too.
Totally. Sorry, so going back to the original point, Demi and Cassia, do we see them as being on par, or is there a favourite?
I think it's fair to say that Demi Vollering is the favourite, out and out favourite. She has been riding amazingly well this year. She's gelled really well with her new team. She has the closest thing we've ever seen to a super domestique train in the mountains in Juliette Labousse and Evita Musique, who could and have been both GC riders in their own right for the team before. And she's just such an incredible climber. As soon as they get into the mountains, she can start to put serious time into the others. So I do think she's the standout favourite. Having said that, she has been beaten at one stage race this year. It's just hugely unfortunate. The person who beat her was Marlon Rysel, who we've seen go out today, which is such a shame. She beat her at the Tour de Suisse, Royce's home race, and it was a stage race that proved that Vollering could be beaten over a series of days. So, yeah, it's a shame that she's out.
Now, Elisa Longoborghini, she won the Women's Giro 2 weeks ago. Does that work in her favour, or is she just going to be absolutely knackered?
It's a really good question. The fact these two races are so close together on the calendar, luckily isn't a problem that we have to deal with anymore after this year. But this year, those riders who've ridden the Giro, especially ones who've ridden it really fiercely, battling for that GC, yes, they're going to be carrying some fatigue. And I honestly don't know at this point how it's going to affect them going into the race. But yeah, Lisa would normally definitely be one to watch for the top placements.
Nice. And anyone else? I feel like we've missed out. Ferron Prevost, she's a favourite of mine.
Yeah, she's ace. She's just come back to the peloton this year after years smashing it in mountain biking and other disciplines too. She proved that she was in amazing form in the Spring Classic. She won Paris-Roubaix. She was on the podium at a number of other races. And she said she plans to win, or at least go to win the Tour de France within 3 years of coming back. But I think she might have surprised even herself with the level that she's come back at. So, and we've seen her today already, you know, tearing it up on a climb. So I wouldn't rule her out at all. Another veteran would be my final pick for GC, and that would be Anna van der Breggen of Team SD Works. She's come back after 3 years in the team car. And again, it's another one who's proven that she is at a really high level, despite having had some time out.
Nice. And then the green jersey, not quite as many favourites in the mix there, I feel.
Yeah, I think strong favourites are going to include Lorena Wiebes, who will win anything that's a flat sprint. She is the fastest woman in the world, hands down. We've got Marianne Vos winning today. She's a wily veteran. She's known as the GOAT, the greatest of all time. She's won 2 out of the 3 green jerseys in the past, well, in the 3 editions that we've had of the Tour de France Femmes. And she can really hang in there on some climbs. You know, if there's intermediate sprints that are on difficult sections, she has a great team around her as well. And also we can't rule out world champion Lotte Kopecky. She won in 2023, the green jersey, but she's carrying a back injury, so she's not at her best coming into this race.
Nice. So on to tomorrow's stage, stage 2. What's in store?
So it's a second consecutive hilly day in Brittany, beginning in the port city of Brest and heading 110.4 kilometres south to Campe. There's an intermediate sprint after 45 kilometres and a Cat 3 climb immediately after that, where the race is likely to kick off if it hasn't already. There are 2 Category 4s after that and bonus seconds, which we didn't see in the men's tour. We've got bonus seconds on 3 stages this year. They are at 87.5 kilometres, 6, 4 and 2 seconds for the top 3 riders at that point. A final Category 4 climb just 5 kilometres from the line will explode the race with a mad dash to the finish line from there. A finish line which is uphill, so again, like we've seen today, it will invite attacks from punchy riders. It looks set to be a really fun stage.
It's a lot of racing tomorrow, isn't it? A lot to look forward to.
It is, yes. And we're going to have to do some live maths to work out those bonus times.
So join us tomorrow, same time, for all of the action from both the races.
Yep.
Until then, goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.